This Saturday, May 20th, on the undercard of Lomachenko versus Devin Haney, there's a fight going on that's a little flying a little bit under the radar. We got undefeated Ray Muratalla, 17-0, 14 knockouts, versus Jeremia Nakathila. Nakathila has a record of 23-2. He's coming off of a win. His last win was versus Miguel Berchet, where he stopped Miguel Berchet in the sixth round. They fight at the 135 division. It looks like Nakathila has moved up from 130 very recently. His only other loss is to Shakur Stevenson, which he fought at 130. And I watched those two fights this week. I watched the Miguel Berchet fight, and I watched the fight with Shakur Stevenson. The fight with Miguel Berchet started off very good. That was his first fight coming back after a very bad loss to Oscar Valdez, and the very first round, Miguel Berchet started off very well. He had good foot movement. He had good head movement. He had good punch selection. But that was the only good round he had. Starting in the second, Nakathila was pretty much able to take control of the fight. Landed some big shots, which made Miguel Berchet very apprehensive and not wanting to throw shots. So even though that was a shutout, 6-0 pretty much by Jeremia Nakathila, it did show us a couple things. If you paid attention in certain rounds, in round 3 when the knockdown came, Miguel Berchet was knocked down by a jab by Nakathila, and when he made the count and got up from that shot, Nakathila didn't have a lot of creative punches to come back with, or feints to draw him in to drop his hands in order to land another big shot upstairs. He threw a 1-2 repeatedly, 1-2, 1-2. Miguel Berchet was having his hands up, moving as best as he could after being knocked down, and he threw another 1-2. So 3 times he threw the 1-2 combo, a jab with a straight right hand. Obviously, Nakathila's right hand is what he's always trying to set up. But I expected more from him. I expected, to go to the body maybe, or an uppercut to open up the gloves and then land something upstairs. That was an area where I thought he has room for growth. And when he was going in for the finish, that he needed to be a little bit more creative with his punch selection. Eventually, later in the round, he did come with a jab and then an upper, and then he started leading with the right hand. But there is a little bit of room for growth if he wants to finish somebody after getting them on a knockdown, after knocking them down. From that fight, we also learned, and also from the Shakur Stevenson fight, that he misses wide. He loads up a lot. Even in the Shakur Stevenson fight, he forgot which round it was, maybe the second. He threw a left so hard and missed that he fell to the canvas. It was ruled down a slip, but it was very apparent in the Miguel Berchet fight too that when he misses wide and gets off balance and leaves himself open. I think Ray Muratalla will be able to capitalize on that. I think he's very patient and we'll be waiting for one of those big misses and then come in to capitalize it on and counter him very well. Nakathila, I believe, is 32 years old, so he's not going to have the youth on his side. I believe Ray Muratalla is 26, so that'll be something that'll be in Ray's favor. But I think he's never shown that he's had, at least in the 2 fights that I did his film study on, he does not have any problems with stamina. He's very well conditioned, talking about Jeremia Nakathila. In the 5th round, Nakathila did miss wide with one of those right hands, and Miguel Berchet was able to connect a solid left hook, and he had a lot of success. Once he landed that big left hook and thought he could hurt him, he continued to throw it. Had a little bit of success with it. obviously success is people can measure it in different ways. He had already lost pretty much round 1 through 4. So just because he landed one big shot in the fifth doesn't mean that some people might not see that as success. But he did land it, and then again in the sixth, again the left hook was landing. The sixth round is when actually Jeremia Nakathila was trying to finish him. He hurt him very bad, and Miguel Berchet still was landing those left hooks. So I don't know if that's something he's worked on, but it's definitely an area where he has room for growth. Now, Ray Muratalla he's a fighter from Fontana. He joined Robert Garcia back in 2015, 2016, right when Robert Garcia moved his gym from Oxnard over to Riverside, where he's currently at. Actually, for a year, maybe a year and a half, he was actually running both gyms. He was driving from his home in the Riverside area to Oxnard, training half a dozen fighters there, including Mean Machine and Volsdick and some of those fighters, and then driving from Oxnard in the middle of the day back to Riverside to continue fighting, to continue training fighters like Joshua Franco, Hector Tanajara, Mikey Garcia, whoever was in the stable back then. He was 5-0 when he joined the team, and he wasn't tied to any big promoter. So Robert took advantage of his relationships with everybody that he has relationships with promotion-wise, which at the time he had probably five or six fighters signed to Golden Boy. He probably had 10 to 12 fighters signed to Top Rank. Mikey was with the PBC, so he was doing his fights with TGB Promotions and Al Heyman, and then eventually, probably 2018, 2019, started having Mikey started fighting with Matchroom Boxing, and then they signed Alexis Espino with Matchroom Boxing and started moving a lot of their fighters, including Bam Rodriguez, onto Mikey's undercards on Matchroom via DAZN. So Robert moved him wherever he could. Eventually, Ray landed a contract with Top Rank, and he's been with Top Rank since. He's currently 17-0 with 14 knockouts. Very talented fighters. If you hear Robert talk about Ray, he's up there with Virgil Ortiz, some of the best fighters that he's had. At the time, it was Virgil Ortiz, Bam Rodriguez, and Ray Muratalla, some of the most talented fighters in a gym, with a couple dozen professional fighters. He has very good footwork, has a lot of good patience, has power with his right hand, has obviously 17 fights, he's undefeated, but 14 of those he's actually stopped, whether that be from a power punch left hook to the body or a right hand. He has power in both hands, very high ring IQ, does tons of sparring with world champion Jose Ramirez. And in the 5, 6, 7 years that he's been with Robert, he's sparred with Hector Tanajara, he's sparred with Brian Lua, Saul Neno Rodriguez, everybody who's at 135. He's fought guys at 140, even as high as 147, sometimes even 154. For this fight, I was able to stop by the gym, and he was sparring Louis Coria, who fights at 126, for several rounds, and then even Leo Ruiz, who fights at 154. So he carries his weight very well. He originally, for the first 5, 6, 7 fights of his career, he was fighting at 140. Then eventually the decision to bring him down to 135 was made. He expressed in an interview recently that he's hired a nutritionist, and he's able to get to 130, down to 135 comfortably. He was doing things, in his opinion, a little bit wrong, but he's sharpened up his nutrition, and he gets down to 135 well. Included with all those attributes, he has pretty good speed, but most of all, it's his ring IQ, it's his patience. And I know in his last fight, he's been criticized a little bit for having too much patience, and he caught a right hand to the temple and got knocked down. But he made his way up, and I think that was in the first round, if if I'm not mistaken. And then eventually he was able to knock down his opponent in the fourth with the body shot, and then knocking him down in the ninth to stop it before it went to the full 10 rounds. So that's not the first time he's been knocked down in his career. He's been knocked down before in the bubble on a fight card where he and his brother were on at the same time. And I think he got knocked down in the second. I think that one was, he got caught in between punches. He was throwing a combination, and Cesar Valenzuela from Guaymas caught him with a left hook to the almost to the back of the head, and he got dropped, but he got up from that as well. He was a little, you could tell on his face, he was a little upset with himself, but he got up, and he was able to win that bout as well. Now the fight between Jeremia Nakathila and Shakur Stevenson let you know a lot of things about Jeremia. One, he doesn't have the best footwork, but Shakur Stevenson will bring out a lot of your areas for room for growth on any fighter. Obviously, he's southpaw, so orthodox fighters are always going to have problems with southpaws. As an orthodox fighter, you always the majority of the sparring growing up as a kid, and even as through the amateurs and through the pros, you're always fighting other orthodox fighters. So it's because you have less experience sparring southpaws, then a lot of orthodox fighters will always have problems fighting southpaws. Saying that, in the fight versus Shakur Stevenson, he likes to load up and he leaves himself open. He likes to load up with the 1-2, and after he throws the 2, he's kind of out of position and then leaves himself open to counter. And when he throws a lot of his punches, he kind of smothers himself. A lot of the time, Shakur Stevenson was able just to put his back up against the ropes, and when he was ready to let go of some of those big shots, it was too late. Shakur was able to just take half a step forward and smother some of Nakathila's work. I also noticed that he's a straight up fighter, doesn't really bend his knees too much, and it was very apparent because of how technically skilled Shakur is. You can see Shakur very balanced and very poised, whereas Nakathila was standing up without his knees bent, a little bit more of a straight up fighter. Neither fighter in that fight invested a lot to the body. Shakur every once in a while threw the 9 punch, so he'd throw a 1 jab and then throw the right hand. Well, he's the opposite. So it's 1-9 if you're a orthodox fighter. It's 1-10 if you're a southpaw, which means it's your power hand to the midsection. But Nakathila didn't invest anything to the body in his fight against Shakur, and Shakur can do that to you. He's a very talented and very skilled fighter. He pretty much nullifies a lot of the things that you can do in there, but mentally, there was no creativity in Nakathila's punches. It was mostly 1-2s, 1-1-2s, maybe a lead right hand every once in a while, but there was no 7-8s to the body, left hook to the body, or right hook to the body. Maybe I can count maybe 1 or 2 or 3 at the most uppercuts in the entire fight for him, and that's hard because Shakur is so talented that he's gonna do that to fighters. In the 4th round, Shakur Stevenson was able to knock Nakathila down, and I think Shakur spent most of the time setting that shot up. He just baited him, and when Nakathila came in with the 1-2, before he could get his 2 off, Shakur met him with a short right hook. I'm thinking left hook because I'm an orthodox, but because he's southpaw, his lead hand is his right, so it was a short right hook, and boom, down went Nakathila. I think because Nakathila leaves himself out of position when he throws the 1-2 combo, I think Ray Muratalla will be able to capitalize on that. He's either going to hit him with the left hook, or he's going to shoot something to the body, or just wait for him to come back up and meet him with a strong punch upstairs. I think Ray has 10 rounds to do it, and I think he's going to pick that up. I also think that where Ray Muratalla might be able to do some interesting things with Nakathila is with his footwork. He might pivot to the sides and be able to give certain angle shots on Nakathila, where Nakathila's most of the time going to come straight forward. very Bam Rodriguez type like movement from Ray Muratalla, and I think it's one of the best fights on the undercard. I know Oscar Valdez is on the undercard, and some other great talent, but I think we're going to be able to see Ray Muratalla at his best on this fight. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know if you think Jeremia Nakathila is going to win. How? By knockdown or decision, or if you think Ray Muratalla is going to win, knockdown or decision. And I'm going to try to do a little bit more film study, find some more. If there's a fight, I've only seen 2 fights from Nakathila. So if you think there's a fight other than the Miguel Berchet and the Shakur Stevenson fight, please write it in the comments. I'd love to see more of his work. And everybody have a good day and God bless.